So, Alex Rapatoni, you play the wonderful role of Santa, and you've done this for various children's parties, private corporate events, festivals, any type of public event where, Santa makes an appearance, you've done it. I am so curious to know what it's like to be Santa. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to diving into this mythological creature.
Yeah, so what is it like to be Santa?
um, it's the toughest job I have all year. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Uh, it's um, it's stressful because of the amount of trust that you're given. Um, you have to uphold a lie that we tell children all over the world. Um, and if you don't do a good job, you specifically are a part of the first big betrayal of their life.
Well, when you put it that way,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot of pressure. Hello, feline companion.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine the immense pressure that you're under, the ability to, put on the guise and be all of the things that Santa represents. Um, can you tell me more?
All right, so I like to think of Santa as a king, um, but if we want to get really specific, Santa's an egregore. Are you familiar with that
Not
term?
out even a little bit.
An egregore is a thing that exists because we believe it.
Ah, okay. Yes.
Basically, the plot of American Gods. It's all about the gods that we believe in, that exist because we believe in them. And it's true about Santa Claus. It's not because he's, I mean, sure, he's based on like Odin, and that, there's Saint Nick and whatever, but that was in like the 4th and 5th century of Saint Nicholas, who was also the patron saint of prostitutes as well as children.
Merry
um
Christmas.
um but yeah, so he is this omnipotent being, right? That passes judgment. But I think of him as a king because my job, when I'm doing a big festival, when I'm doing a big, like, I call it the endless death march of children, when there's just a line in front of you all day long and it's just churning through as many kids as
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
see. But yeah, you were sitting on your throne. You have a line of petitioners in front of you. You have your long fur-lined robes and your crown, right? And your petitioners come up to you and try to convince you that they are worthy, and they make a request, and you deem them worthy of said request or not,
Yeah.
right? And so one of the big troubles I have is a kid who asks for an iPad, right? Most families can't afford an iPad or a Nintendo Switch, or like that's not just something that's going to come up for them on Christmas. And a lot of people can, but a lot of people can't. And I don't want the value of the gift to be a judgment of why you may or may not have been nice. Because what if Timmy is a jerk at school and he's mean to everybody, but his family's rich, so he gets an iPad. And you know for a fact that you've been nicer than Timmy, but you didn't get an iPad, and you asked for an iPad, but you know that he was. So what did you do, right? Um, so Santa doesn't make electronics. It's just that simple. The Christmas magic doesn't work with electronics. Is really difficult. I'm the world's greatest toy maker. Let's stick to toys, kid. Right? And it's the same. It's the same line with pets. As I make toys, not animals. I tried to bring a cat for Christmas one year, and it tore up all the other presents in the sleigh.
I like
Right?
it.
It made a mess in the bag. You don't want to know how awful that was to clean up. Uh, so yeah, there is this power as a omnipotent being. Um, I was all right. It was right after scary season. I just finished being a monster. It was mid-November. My beard was bleached, and I was doing balloons at Geek Girl Con. and these like 13-year-old girls saw me and they're like, "Hey Santa, she's afraid of you," and it was starting to like push her friend over to me, and I was like, "You should all be afraid of me. I know if you've been bad or good. I know if you're sleeping. I know if you're awake."
It's terrifying.
Yeah, and they all just went, and then they all gave me a wide berth, and my buddy Michael looked over me and was like, "Yo, that that was kind of intense." It's hard to turn the monster off, but if you think about it, like it's hard to get. Uh, it's hard to reconcile that power that you have as a mythological creature,
Yeah, I can
right?
imagine.
And find that sweet spot. The power I have is scary, and it's no wonder kids are afraid of Santa.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
According to X-Men lore, Santa is one of the most powerful mutants. So he's on that list.
I buy it. I buy it. Um, Sometimes people need an elf, and my beard is bleached, and like, well, I guess what I'm wearing is kind of my elf costume. Santa is an elf too. He's the jolly old elf, right? And what we know is Santa didn't exist until like 1850 when Clement C. Moore wrote "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
Mm.
That's really the first time that our red suited Santa Claus, and he wasn't trying to create a thing. He was just was a dude who wanted to write a poem about Christmas.
Yeah.
And some of these things that we had, and it created this whole industry, the whole
Wild.
Santa industry.
Okay.
So the first job of like the Santa as we know it, that holding court, comes from like Macy's, right?
Okay.
There's a long line of children in a department store. And they can set up all these little displays to put all the popular toys out, so the kids get to stand in line and look at all the things that the store is trying to sell.
Mm.
And then they get up to Santa Claus and they get to tell Santa Claus what they want, and mom and dad are like, "Huh?" Right?
Yeah.
And then they can go buy the thing and bring it back to them. And even the letters to Santa Claus, it's the same concept of how do I get the idea from my kids? How do I get what my kids want without ever having them tell me
Yeah.
what they want? It's the greatest magic trick.
Yeah, as an adult, this all makes perfect sense to me. As I was going through that as a child, I'm like, oh, magic wonder, cool. How
Yeah.
did they do it?
One of my ex's mom used to have a special paper set aside to wrap presents from Santa in that was different from all the rest of the wrapping paper,
Ah.
which makes total sense, right? When trying to come up with when you're selling the lie, it makes total sense. Why would Santa use your paper?
Yep.
Right? That's not, they don't have your paper in the North Pole. I remember asking my mom about it, and she was like, "No, well, Santa just comes and uses our paper." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't really matter, but if you have a designated Santa paper before that question ever comes up, it's never a question.
Yeah.
The presents from Santa are wrapped differently and appear on Christmas Eve overnight.
Yeah.
And you wake up in the morning and it's easy to tell which presents are from Santa because they're wrapped differently and they weren't there yesterday. And I thought that was brilliant.
What are some of the longest lengths you've seen to help keep up the Santa illusion?
It's tough because about the time kids start questioning, they kind of already know the answer.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. If they're asking the question, they know the answer. And I have to, in my heart, in my belief, in my performances, when I'm playing Santa, because it's very much playing. It's a fun time. You have to have fun with it.
Yeah.
But if a kid looks at me and says, "Are you the real Santa?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm real. I'm right here. I'm as real as you are." And I start poking them, right?
Yeah.
And my goal is to deflect, right? I then change the conversation. Like, obviously, I'm Santa and I'm real and you're real,
Yep.
right? And you were real yesterday, but I'd never seen you. I hadn't seen you in real life before. I do this when I do balloon animals, and kids are asking me what I make, and I give a list of like dragons and mermaids, and if it's a thing and it exists, I can make it out of balloons. And like,
Yeah, yeah,
dragons don't exist. Well, have you ever seen a dragon? No. But I never saw you before today, and you existed before today, right? So just because you haven't seen a dragon doesn't mean they don't exist.
yeah, yeah.
And so that's the train of thought I try to take him down in a conversation, as are you the real Santa? Instead of giving them an answer, I give them existential dread.
One, I think it's very clever. It's the same foundational skills of that you use for magic and being a magician, right? Misdirection, logical traps, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know the longest, parents work real hard at keeping their kids believing.
Yeah.
Some of them want you to be very clear that you are Santa's helper and not Santa.
Okay.
But one of the things, so I used to do the Argosy Christmas ship, which is a 70-plus-year tradition here in Seattle.
Yep.
They just do little tours. Argosy has a whole bunch of ships. They do tours of the Elliott Bay and Lake Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And they are decorated with lights, and they have Christmas carolers, and they pump the music out, and they make a couple stops on each Christmas ship tour to like a hotel, and they pump out the Christmas carols. And all the boats that are also out on the water is just like a Christmas parade, right? They are all decorated, and they follow the Christmas ship around.
Yeah.
And the boat owners get to make a thing of it. And so there's a Santa on each boat. If it's a busy night, there's like 4 boats, the main boat and the follow boats.
Okay.
And I got to be a Santa Claus on the follow boats for Argosy. And so on the main boats, you get like 40 kids, right? You get it's the biggest boat. You got your best Santa on it. It's where most of the families are going. It's the boat the carolers are on.
Yeah.
But I was always getting stuck on the follow boats, and there's like 9 kids and adults. So frankly, it's a little bit harder.
Sure.
Because you get more one-on-one time with everybody.
Yes. Yes.
So I made a habit of like kids, some of the older kids, when they're reaching 8, 9, 10, are like, but you're not the real Santa, right? Like you can't be the real Santa. I'm like, well, I'll tell you a secret. I'm not the real Santa, and neither was the Santa before me. His name was Cummerbund. And frankly, I just rip off the Princess Bride.
Sure, yeah.
Right? It's the Dread Pirate Roberts. I treat it like the Dread Pirate Roberts. But now that you know that I'm not the real Santa, the real secret is that you're Santa too. Because being Santa is all about doing nice things, and the Christmas spirit is about doing nice things for people without needing anything in return.
Yeah.
It's all about spreading joy and spreading cheer. And now that you know the secret, you are responsible for bringing joy to people without getting anything in return.
Yeah.
And that's how you get to be Santa too.
That's very clever. Yeah.
Because they're asking, and they don't. It happened last weekend. Frankly, there was one kid who asked, was asking us the hard questions, was trying to find any gaps, and he finally caught on that we were lying, and we were trying not to lie. We were playing our games, but he was like, Santa doesn't have earrings, elves don't have cell phones. Like, we had our stuff behind the bench.
Yeah, I
stuff.
got it.
And the elf was wearing the little ear cap things that go on, and he was like, "Nah, y'all are lying," and he walked off. And he was upset. He was mad. He was angry.
Okay.
That he had, not necessarily at me, but I got to see that moment on this kid's face just last weekend of somebody who had been
The illusion
betrayed.
Yeah.
He realized that everybody had been lying to him. He was finally had enough evidence to decide that everyone was mad, and I would rather not ever see that.
Oh, of course.
Like I would rather I wish I had gotten up and found his parents and be like, hey, I want to talk to him over here real quick, and be like, yeah, you're right, man, I'm not the real Santa.
Okay.
And told him all that stuff that I
Right.
just said. I didn't get a chance to say that to him, but I
Sure.
know now that even if I had to stop a line full of kids to take 5 minutes with this one
It
kid
would have
on the
been worth
side,
it.
it would absolutely would have been worth it. For him, and I don't know if the people in line would have been upset, but you know what? They
They
can
can
be
deal with it.
upset. Yeah, they
Yeah.
can. They're already waiting in a line. You know, this is Christmas magic here. We all got to be on board with keeping it alive.
Yeah. I mean, that says a lot about, what Santa represents. And then also you as a person to be willing to take the time to really give that situation its due diligence, to kind of really kind of sit down with that kid, process those emotions, it kind of explain the situation, set that straight so that they don't have this existential crisis looming over their head for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, everybody has been lying to me. Everybody
Yeah.
has been lying to me. Everyone. Right. Like that's got to be earth-shattering.
Yeah.
I remember figuring it out cuz I recognized my mom's handwriting.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on the gift tags that said from Santa, I recognized my mom's handwriting.
I see.
That like nobody was actively lying to me. I was just like, "No, this is your handwriting, mom." And she's like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Game's over. All right.
Shams up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it is it because, well, like I said, that kid wasn't exactly mad at me, but I was the Santa that ruined the illusion.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was there. That was it's just my face on in his memories now. That's
Yeah.
me. Um and so that kind of sucks. And how do we handle it? How do we make it a good experience? Because
Yeah.
that's my whole job, is to make sure people are having a good experience and having a fun time and making good memories. And how do
Yes.
we roll
Yes.
it into good memories? I've been doing this since 2016. A mermaid from Hawaii called me up because the Howard Hughes Center waited until November to try to book a Santa Claus for their skating rink.
It's
And
ambitious.
and yeah, there weren't any Santas
Yeah,
left
of
on
course.
any of the
Yeah.
islands. So they, one of my friends whipped up my Santa suit, and I basically got an all expense paid trip to Hawaii.
Good for
Right?
you.
I didn't make any money off of it, but I got a Santa suit and I got the experience, and I got to go to Hawaii. It was great.
Okay. Yeah.
I got to ice skate with kids. That's honestly my favorite gig I've done, is just ice skating. I was ice skating with a kid. I was holding one hand, mom was holding the other hand. We were doing a lap around the thing, and mom was like, "This is so cool." Mom was so ecstatic that like this was the memory that they were creating.
Yeah.
That it was amazing. So I went home to Seattle. The next year I did the Christmas ship, and then one of my friends up in Arlington runs a princess party company, and they got rid of their mall. It just died. Malls are dead now, mostly. And so they weren't gonna have a place to have Santa meet and greet. So she wanted to like start setting it up, and we had a really big year. We got a couple like storefronts in Mount Vernon, in like a drugstore in the front window, where we had like a line around. And so we had a little workshop that we built that was like a private room, but it was right in front of the window, so people could see all the people taking pictures with Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Um, and I even had a leather apron commissioned, a red leather Santa apron
That's
for the
cool.
workshop. Um, and this is when we started doing the Skagit Valley Children's Museum, which is where I was this weekend. And our first year doing it, we were also doing letters to Santa. So they send in their letters, and I'd read their letter and then respond to it. And you know, they'd get the video from the Santa that they got to
Right.
see live, hopefully. And I got a letter from a family where it was two little girls and a boy, and I don't remember the name of the disease this kid had, but it was I remember. So essentially, the toxins build up in his body, and he doesn't have a way to get rid of them, and so he's rapidly aging.
Okay.
Basically, like the movie Jack, starring Robin
Okay.
Williams. But the real life version of that. And I saw
Yeah.
pictures of the kids, and he was definitely like
Not doing great.
looked 40 years old, right? Um, and oh boy, did that make me sad. Um,
Yeah.
I still cry most of the time when I talk about it.
Sure.
But I read the letter and had my moment, and I had a response, and I went home and cried to my friends about it and told them what my response was. And then I had to call my boss and be like, I hope you don't do anything with that video yet because we're re-recording it. She's like, what? And I said, I feel
Sure.
like I said, sorry, your brother's dying, kid. Maybe somebody's going to get you a Barbie. Right.
Yeah.
And I felt awful. And so we tried to like raise their Disney princess party. So they were trying to collect Disney gift cards,
Okay.
so that they could either get a trip to Disneyland, or at least they could get some fun presents from the Disney store or whatever. And so that was how we handled it, because it was hard. I'm sure it was a rough Christmas for them, and as the only way I could live with myself.
Yeah. No, of course. No, I gotcha. I the weight and responsibility of Santa is something that I don't think a lot of people think about. They say, "Oh, red suit, beard, happy Christmas times, kids selling the lap presents." But to hold up that illusion, to represent hope for people is difficult.
Absolutely. Uh, so when I do the children's museum, they put out stationery and a mailbox, and I do take all the letters home and I read all the letters. And I get to keep my favorites. But this year I got one that the first thing the kid asked for was for his parents to stop fighting.
Yeah.
And then so many Legos, so many Lego sets and Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
And you know what, kid? Probably a lot of Lego sets will take your mind off of it at least.
That's true. You could fix one of those problems.
But yeah, this is like it's a trope, but these are things kids are actually dealing with. These are things kids want for Christmas. Kids from rough families want their parents to stop fighting.
Yeah. There's a lot to dig into that. I would love to find a child psychologist that I can talk to on the show about these concepts, because these are very real and adult situations, but they have to be explained and attended to for a child. And it's very difficult to distill these complex things down to simple, palatable things for them to deal with, because they don't have the decades of experience to deal with these situations.
Yeah.
They're hard, even under the best of circumstances for full ass adults. They don't have the tools to deal with this. How can you expect a child to, right?
Absolutely. I think that actually might be a good idea for myself, is to just talk to a child psychologist about it. How to respond to that? Like,
Yeah.
how do I help this kid in this moment?
Yeah.
Because they are dealing with something difficult, and thank God or whoever that these have just been letters that I've had time to think about and haven't been asked directly.
Real time. Yeah.
If a kid directly asked me for his parents to stop fighting, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah. No, that's a good one.
Yeah, like part of me wants to keep a business card to a divorce lawyer and just slip it to the parents. I mean, like, I don't know how to handle that, but if you know, even when it comes down to it, if a situation is so bad that that's what the kid is wishing for,
Yeah.
then you're not staying together for the kids.
Yeah.
That's not why this couple is staying together. And so you have to get into all of that too. There's relationship dynamics.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that to a kid? And you know, like, a kid's gonna ask me for this in real life someday, and I got like 30 seconds to answer it. What do I say?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So
Yeah.
I imagine similar to how like an improv comedian has this like Rolodex of potential questions and responses, you probably have something baked into yourself and your presentation of Santa just from the sheer experience that you have. There might be like a bucket of like 300 questions that you can potentially get, and over time you figure out how to answer each one of these. So when it comes up again, you have a couple of canned responses and paths you can kind of go
Absolutely.
down. Okay.
Absolutely. Um, so a kid asked me this year for honeybees.
Okay.
And I was like, honeybees? And his mom was like, yeah, he really wants a beehive. I was like, that is so cool. I
Good
would
for
love to
him.
be able to bring that
Yeah.
for you. Right. But there's this moment that a lot of kids have. They're under pressure now. Right. So, um, all right. First, your parents use Santa Claus as a threat. Right. If you're not good, if you don't eat your vegetables, if you don't clean your room, he's gonna bring you coal for Christmas.
Yep.
Right. They lord the power of Santa Claus over the kids. If not in November and December all year long.
Yep.
And so they do that, and his Santa's face is everywhere. And so you wait in line for 30, 45 minutes to see Santa Claus. You
Yeah.
get antsy, and like you might be really excited to see Santa, but now the time comes. Your moment is here. It's a you're going to meet the man, the myth, the legend
Yeah.
himself,
Yeah.
Santa Claus, the man in red, right? And so all the kids, even that were excited, they start to get a little shy and a little timid, and people just want to shove their babies at you, like
Yeah.
they don't even want to ask if you're comfortable holding a baby. They just shove a baby at you sometimes. It's not super common, but
But
there are
yes.
people who do that. And you have to combine it with teaching your kids about stranger danger too, right? You've never met Santa before. You just know of him. And here we are. And then when you're in line, you're just looking at Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But when you're on Santa's lap, you're looking at the line. You get all of these people staring at you, which is one of the reasons why it's so hard on kids who are freaking out.
Immediate stage fright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do a couple of things, but to keep it on track, the kids who are making their requests for Christmas, they get stage fright. They forget what they were thinking of. They may have had their list. They might have been saying things in line. They could have heard what a few other kids asked for and maybe wanted to change their mind at the last minute. But they'll be like, so what do you want for Christmas? And they don't have an answer. I'm like,
Yeah.
I could bring you broccoli. No. A really scratchy sweater.
Yeah.
No, you don't like that? What about socks? Everybody loves socks. No socks? Okay. How about a brick? No. And so this year I added bees.
Bees. Yeah.
And bees is great. Bees is the perfect end
love
cap for
bees.
that. Bees is some kids of all ages have a really great what the fuck you talking about, Santa? Look on their face when you say that.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. And I've been working with an elf the last couple years. Been
Yeah.
working on training an elf. And so we get to play with it together.
Okay.
And like our canned responses are coming through. And like we got the people in line and all the adults are laughing and like, oh, they were so much fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And that's what I want out of it, because you did just wait in line, and it is supposed to be fun for everybody.
Yeah.
And it can be so traumatic when they want you to sit on a stranger's lap.
Yeah.
So
I
got a long bench at this thing, and so kids don't have to sit on my lap. They can sit
can-
next to me. I can
Yep.
put my arms around them. They can sit on my lap if they want. But the first thing I try to do with any kid is to get a high five.
Break that touch barrier.
Yeah. First, they get to touch my hand. And if they don't want to touch my hand, I get a high five from mom, and I get a high five from dad, and I get a high five from any older siblings that might be there. And then I try to go back for the high five for the kid.
Yep.
And if they go for it, great. If not, I'm like, this kid's not going to sit in my lap. please don't shove him at me, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I have to convey all that silently, right?
Yeah.
But at that point where I'm circling for high fives, everybody kind of understands that this kid is genuinely terrified right now
Yep.
and is
Yep.
not doesn't even want to give me a high five. Um, and But so I do a bit. I get to do all year long. First, I get a high five, a low five, and a toe five, where I stick my toes out for them, and they get to kick my foot.
Yeah.
Um, and it works really great with Santa because it's a few. Again, it's a great magic trick. You give them a few simple commands: high five, low five. They can do that. You challenge their brain by asking for a toe five, something they've probably never been asked for before, but they do it and it's fun. And then without skipping a beat, you say, "You want to sit up here and we can take a picture together?" And they're like, "Yeah!" And they
Yeah.
jump up there and you grab a picture, and it's perfect. There's no struggle about it. They've realized that you're in it to have fun. This is going to be really quick. My other favorite line is like, if they're just being shy and like covering up their face, and I'm like, I always tell them, I'm like, the sooner you put your hands down and get a good picture, the sooner this is over and you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh,
Oh, okay, cool.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And they behave and they pose for the picture and they
Yep.
get it and run off. And everyone, like parents are always super impressed. I'm like, I guess it is kind of, I mean, I've learned these tricks over the 8 years I've been doing Santa
Yeah.
Claus, as well as all the time I've been performing otherwise.
Yep.
And it's a great, it is fun. It absolutely is fun.
Yeah.
But it is emotionally draining to do
I
all
can
this
imagine.
labor for
Yes.
families and kids, to manage expectations of what they're going to get for Christmas, to manage the lie of Santa Claus.
I mean, it like we said before, the mantle of Santa, it's such an incredible weight. Speaking of which, what was it like the very first time donning the red suit? What were you feeling? What was that experience like?
All right, so it was in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And I had to I took the bus to the Howard Hughes Center on
Yeah.
Honolulu.
Yep, yep.
And walking from the bus stop to the venue, I was in like Christmas board shorts that I had
I mean,
made.
Hawaii, right?
Yeah. And like a casual Santa has always been one of my favorites. Just like I'm not dressed as Santa, but I can't take the beard off, so
Right.
I have to be Santa most of the time.
Yes.
And so I was just walking along, and a bus driver was pulling out of a driveway, and he honked, and then gave me the shaka, and I realized like I am Santa.
Yeah.
Right at this moment, just walking down the street, I just am Santa. You know what? Even before that moment, I was always a big fan of Ernest P. Worrell.
Okay.
Ernest Scared Stupid, Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Saves Christmas. Ernest Saves Christmas takes place in Orlando. And Santa Claus comes to Orlando, and he gets off the plane with his Santa sack and a 3-piece suit. Just a regular old 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
But is this old man and with a white beard and a Santa bag. That's his luggage. So I went to the airport to get on the plane, and I was like, well, I'm going to be in the airport, and the biggest part of my luggage is my long fur coat.
Yeah.
I aim for like a Victorian kind of look. I don't.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do the Argosy cruise ship gives you a Santa suit, so all the Santas match. That's where I got my Coke bottle Santa suit.
Okay.
But I like to do this Victorian thing. So it is a long fur lined robe.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest piece of my luggage. So I could bring my one carry-on, which had all my stuff, but if I threw my jacket over my arm, which means I should be wearing my hat, right? And I didn't have like a red suit but I had red pants, so I wore my red slacks, and I wore a blazer and a vest and a tie, and that's what I wore on the airplane. Because through most of like early airplane history, that's what people wore on planes. If you were going on a plane, it was an
dress
event
up.
and you
Yes,
dressed up,
yes.
right? So I wanted to take take that into that with me. Also, I was kind of hoping for a free upgrade to first class.
That would have been nice.
But it was a Christmas time trip to Hawaii. There was a
You're
lot of
not
people.
kidding.
There was, yeah. I didn't talk to enough real people to get that. But I had some like, I think my first interaction with Santa Claus as Santa Claus was in the airport walking to my gate.
Okay.
This kid, this grandma stopped me and had me talk to her kid and say hi to Santa Claus. And she reminded me that I needed to ask him what he wanted for Christmas. And it wasn't until year 2 when I started the Argosy cruise ship that I realized I didn't know the name of all 9 reindeer.
Okay. Yeah.
I couldn't rattle them off. So, all right, I get to Hawaii. I get the shaka from the bus driver. I get into the Howard Hughes Center. There's I feel like it was just a dressing area, but it could have been just a really fancy bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah, who knows? It was the Howard Hughes Center. It's fancy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm getting into my costume, and I got to put on ice skates. So I didn't even have to worry about like what shoes I wore as Santa that year because it was ice skates. Yeah, I was nervous. It was. I've always dealt with stage fright, so it was the first time I was going to be out there.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to expect because I had never done it before.
Right. No experience.
They gave me a seat to hold court in, but I wasn't fully aware of how to hold court. People weren't really there for Santa photos. They were there to ice skate.
Yeah.
So the skating rink was up through January, and after Christmas, they got Anna and Elsa to come out. So the mermaid, my mermaid friend was Anna, and had an Elsa that she worked with, and they were going out to do ice skating. And so really that people were there for the ice skating. Like I could go sit and take a break and take photos with people. But really I just started mingling. The people who were sitting, I just walk up to the groups and I introduce myself, which seems silly when you're Santa, but it is silly. To go up to a group of people when you're in the full red suit and be like, "Hi guys, I'm Santa."
Oh yes. Hello. Yes.
You might not have heard of me, but I'm Santa Claus. It adds this level of humble, like nonchalance, right? Like, because again, you're dealing with the fear of Santa Claus with kids. So if you get to pretend like they may not know who you are, or you don't expect them, it's this weird body language. You get to open with a laugh and it puts everybody at ease.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just ask the questions, but you don't just ask the kids questions. You don't just ask kids, have you been good this year?
Right.
I ask the parents. One of my favorite things to do is to ask dads what the nicest thing they did all year was. Any dad. It's extra great when you're in a country club.
I'm sure.
Like the more money dad makes, the funnier it is. But really, I would say that it's probably the Republican dads that are the best. It doesn't matter what their income bracket is.
Yeah.
If they're voting red, they have no idea how to answer it.
It's fun to poke a little bit.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. They don't have great answers. And moms are always like, well, I took care of my kids, right? And you're like, absolutely, that's great.
Yeah.
And kids don't always have the best answers either. So you kind of just rush them through it. With a kid, if they don't have an answer, I'm like, well, did you share? Do you clean up when you're asked? Do you say please and thank you? Those are great ways to stay on the nice list all year round.
Yeah.
You got to rack up a lot of little points so that when you do get in trouble, it doesn't count as much. Even I got in trouble last year. Mrs. Claus got mad because I left my socks in the middle of the floor, and one time she caught me feeding my Brussels sprouts to Rudolph.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Because I have had kids if I ask them if they were good this year and they just start sobbing because
Oh,
they know they got in trouble
sure.
because their parents use Santa as a threat.
Yes.
Santa, if you're not good, Santa's not going to bring you toys. So if
Yes.
Santa asks you if you're good, it's destructive.
Yep.
Right? It's no longer a good time because they're like, no, I wasn't.
Yeah.
So you got to be like, no, it's fine. Even I get in
Yeah, like
trouble.
it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so, because you also have the problem of teenagers, right? The whole family is out to do a fun Christmas thing, but it's all mainly for little kids.
Of course.
And a lot of performers infantilize teenagers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They treat teenagers the same way they treat kids. And I suppose I do too, but I treat the adults that way first.
Yes, that is it's a very important distinction.
You do
Yes.
the kids, you do the adults, you do the teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, it becomes part of the shtick,
Yep.
and you can infantilize them. But really, so the game we're playing is, what do you want for Christmas? Right. Because that's what Macy's gave us.
Yes.
Is what do you want for Christmas? My job as Santa is for everybody at this group, whether it's on the Argosy Christmas ship or I've done these Santa breakfasts where you mingle from table to table and then like read a story or whatever, sing songs on the ukulele. That's my favorite. But yeah, you talk with the whole family and you get everybody to say what they want for Christmas, because somebody's having trouble shopping for a present
I'm
for
sure.
someone.
Yeah.
And so by getting the kids to play and then you get the adults to play, then you can let the teenagers know that it's okay to play. I'm not going to do anything stupid unless it's funny for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's most teenagers are asking for things that frankly aren't any different than what little kids ask for.
Yeah.
My favorite is when kids ask, and of any age, ask for Pokemon stuff because I know a lot about Pokemon.
I just bought a giant Pikachu plush yesterday from Costco for myself. So I understand.
Do you know who Santa's favorite Pokemon is?
Who?
Stantler.
Ah, okay. Yes. Yes.
Also Delibird because he gives out
The
Christmas
presents.
presents.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But that's. Do you know how to fit 12 Bulbasaurs, 13 Charmanders, 4 Squirtles, and 9 Pikachu's onto Santa's sleigh?
Carefully.
You Pokemon.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Right. Like they're fun little bits, but they're like, oh, Santa does know everything.
Yeah.
Right. There's if a kid doesn't know what they want, you can like look at their shoes or their T-shirt.
It kind of gives it away.
Yeah. Right. I'm like, oh, do you like Paw Patrol? Yeah, we can bring you Paw Patrol stuff, and they're like, Santa knows you like Paw Patrol. And sometimes even the parents are completely in awe of how I do it. And I'm like, it's on his shoes. He's wearing Paw Patrol shoes.
No, it's omnipotence. It's Occam's razor right here.
Right. In Magic, it's called cold reading. It's just really easy for kids. Also, there's only like 6 presents, right? There's the hot present out this year, and then there's Legos, American Girl dolls, Play-Doh, and unicorns.
Very little has changed since I was a child.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most amazing things, that Legos and Play-Doh and American Girl dolls, and probably I'd say Barbies instead of that, but like a doll, Baby Alive is still alive. Right. It's still very much a Christmas present kind of doll. So like there's these things that you could throw out and have a pretty good chance of like suggesting it and having the kids being like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I'd love that kind of thing. So it's just called cold reading. It's just cold reading.
Yeah.
That's what magicians call it. It's how like mentalists and spiritual mediums.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Yeah, is how they ply their trade is by seeing that there's cat fur on the arm of your sweater.
Yeah.
So they know that you have
Cat,
cats.
yeah.
Right. It's not a huge thing, but what can you do with it, right? What are they trying to glean? What are they trying to impress you with their omnipotence about? And that's basically the premise of their show, Psych.
Yes, yeah. There is so much nuance to being Santa that I don't think people, myself included, realize at, face value. It sounds like there's child psychology, there's, the cold reading, there's being able to interact with people at all ages and essentially put on a small performance. There's the managing your own emotions to go from heartbreaking story to child asking for this to child asking for that, and then there's also just the emotional toll of you got to do this a couple hundred times over the session that Santa is sitting down for those couple of hours that they're seated. There's a lot to this gig. um how does one learn to be Santa other than just show up and hope for the best and experience?
Um, well, I just showed up and hoped for the best.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I drew upon all of my acting and theater and working with children experience, and
Yeah.
I just did it. I've always wanted to be the world's best grandpa.
Okay.
Try as I might, I've still yet to get married.
Baby steps. Yeah.
Right. And I guess you don't have to get married to have kids, but that's besides the point. But I realized when I got asked if I wanted to do Santa Claus, I was like, well, that basically is the world's best grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially, like
Yep.
that's the role. So I just went for it. And like I said, it wasn't even until year 2 that I knew I could name all the reindeer. So I wasn't fully prepared, but there are Santa schools. There's like the League of Real Beard Santas or the Society for Real Beard Santas or whatever. Like
Okay.
it's crazy. Most clown colleges or clown camps have a Santa course for you. All the Santas go and hang out, and they're kind of cliquey, which is weird, but
Okay.
it's all usually a bunch of old white dudes. Also, one of the bonus of starting
Santa.
being Santa Claus when I'm 30 is that like it's a career plan for like 40 years.
Yeah, you're good for a while, and it actually gets better with age.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a more convincing, better Santa Claus the more as my beard gets grayer and grayer. I'm like, someday I'm not gonna have to bleach it.
There you go.
But yeah, I just dove in. I haven't taken a Santa class. I'm sure I could learn something. The thing I should work on, want to work on,
Yeah.
probably, but the same, is sign language.
Oh, yes.
I can say Merry Christmas,
Okay.
Santa, cookie,
Okay.
right? I know, like, what do you want for Christmas? Is something I can put together, but like, I don't know how much more I need, but I also don't really like have the place to practice. So how much can I actually learn throughout the year when the only time I'm really using it is as Santa Claus? And it's only comes up because I do the Skagit Valley Children's Museum thing every year. That one of the days there's a deaf school that comes out.
Okay.
And that's the only time I feel bad.
Yeah.
But my elf speaks pretty good sign language.
Perfect. I mean, they're the helpers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like we all get to speak one extra language, right? We all get one language proficiency.
Okay.
But it, also just enough to say Merry Christmas and what do you want?
Yeah.
I could probably put a little work into it and look good.
Yeah.
And then it's on the interpreters to help but it's tough. I kind of lost my train of thought there. So
No, that's perfectly
yeah,
fine. You mentioned, learning ASL just to, deliver the message because coming from you is different than having your elf interpret to then go back.
yeah,
So that little bit of extra effort goes a long way. Yeah.
yeah.
What is your favorite bit of Santa lore that you know?
Well, we've kind of talked a little bit about all of that
Yeah.
from his roots into from Odin,
Yeah.
right? Um, and the reindeer themselves are from Odin into the Saint Nicholas, who is the patron saint of children and sex workers, and but that was all in like 400s, 500s, right?
It's quite
Like,
a while ago.
yeah. So like then he just didn't. Nobody did anything with it
Yeah.
until the 1800s,
Yeah.
1850s, when that dude wrote that poem about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
"'Twas the night before Christmas." Um, and we kind of create our own mythos for Santa Claus. Each
Yeah.
Santa, I think, kind of has their own rules of how Christmas magic works. And um, on one hand, it's got to stay close enough to what we know from media and television,
Right.
um, so that you don't ruin it for the next Santa.
Yep.
Um, but at the same time, playing your overly saccharine Santa Claus, your textbook Santa, your Miracle on 34th Street kind of
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
um, to so I think Tim Allen was a great Santa because he wasn't Santa.
I think so too. I love those movies. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like Santa and he does the job, but he's what was he, a lawyer or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
His
because
normal dude until the beard grows in and it's
yeah,
Santa season. And yeah.
and so we got to start toying with the mythos then. We've got the Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell, which are fantastic. I don't know if you've watched
I
them,
haven't.
but Kurt Russell is a fantastic Santa.
Okay.
And they start getting rid of the white hair, the fat Santa look. Like, I think what that movie does for Santa lore, uh, is making great strides. He makes a lot of jokes about his butt not being so big, like he's not that fat.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell does, and so it's made me think a lot about my beard because I have to bleach it, and it's a hard process.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
I use stage makeup to brush into it to get it snowy white. Um, but I was thinking about when I go in for my root touch-ups next week. I'm going to talk to my barber about like, how much harder would it be to go gray so that I brush white in and it's salt and pepper,
I think that'd be great. Yeah.
right? It might not be any more or less work, but then my beard just looks gray
Yes.
and I can whiten it with other stuff.
Yep. Yep.
I could get a new suit made that has that doesn't use white fur.
And the contrast will make it look. Yeah.
Yeah. If I get a more natural fur kind of look going on, it makes a natural beard look more natural.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
could get away with some of the yellowish in my beard as opposed to being like, well, against a white fur suit, my yellow beard
course.
is obviously yellow, so let me
Yes.
brush paint into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if I have a favorite bit of Santa lore other than, the fact that I told people that instead of coal this year, I'm bringing you bees.
I think that's hilarious.
Don't shake your presents.
I mean, like you said, yes, don't shake your presents. But like you said, with as long as you're close to Santa mythos, the fun bit about soft magic systems is that there's room for nuance, right? You can sprinkle some things in for convenience
Yeah.
and to just kind of explain away X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, one of the compliments I get a lot was that I'm relaxed. I'm very laid back. I'm like the Jeff Lebowski of Santas.
Okay.
Um, and I never really thought of myself as like an alternate Santa because that's not usually what clients are trying to book. Um, but there's a performer down in Anaheim, Buster Balloon, who is definitely an alt Santa. He has like he's got a steampunk look. He's got his big steampunk goggles.
Steampunk Santa.
He's got his like red tinted lenses,
Yeah.
and I don't know if he does it all the time or just some of the times, but he gets one of those big fat candy canes and he
Okay.
holds it in his mouth like a stogie, right? Hilarious. Um, and he's definitely a bit more like brusque about everything, but it doesn't mean that he's not fun. It's not fun for the kids. That the kids don't think he's nice. It's just that he gets to play with the personality of
Right.
Santa Claus, and it wasn't really until recently that I was like, I guess I am an alt Santa because I don't wear the typical suit. I am more fun than you would expect from Santa. I'm offering to bring you a brick or bees,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm giving you bad ideas, so hopefully you come up with a good one,
Right.
right? It's yeah, we create our own thing, but the gimmick and the end result is the same
Yeah.
for every Santa.
Man, Into the Santaverse. I would watch that movie.
I met a girl this year. Um, her parents brought her up to me like, "Hey, I don't think she wants to like come leave my arms and come get a picture with you."
Okay.
But we were at Cabela's and Santa Claus yelled at her. So I wanted her to meet a nice Santa. And
Yeah.
so these parents were already dropping that there's only one Santa,
Yeah.
right? That these guys are all Santa and they're not all mean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but this Santa Claus at Cabela's yelled at a little girl because she ran at him with a candy cane in her hand, like a gross sticky. Yeah, kids are
Yeah.
sticky,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But you're Santa Claus.
Yeah. You just gotta deal
If
with
you
it.
don't got cookie crumbs in your beard or cut candy cane stains on your suit, you're
Yeah.
not doing it
Are you
right.
really Santa? Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, you can take it to the cleaner, and sure, you're gonna have to sit there all day, but not one person in the entire world is gonna be upset that Santa Claus has a candy cane stain on his suit, right?
Yeah.
Like it's expected, frankly.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know how I feel about that yet. I don't know how to respond to the Santa community even.
I was about to ask, like, what do you do? Like, have you ever encountered another Santa as you're in public as Santa? Like, I don't know what you do in this situation.
Um, no, no, I haven't. Maybe I have. All right, so there's this social contract for dudes with white beards. If you don't want to be Santa Claus
Yeah.
in December, you shave that bitch.
Yeah.
I have met guys that have like they compliment my beard. They can tell when I'm like that I'm off.
Yep.
One of the reasons I like not going full white with the bleach is that when I don't put the stage makeup in it, I don't look like Santa Claus because it's yellow and there's grow out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it helps me take the costume off.
Yes.
But yeah, a couple of guys have told me that they shave off their beards at Christmas time because they don't want to be Santa Claus. Likewise, there's a few Jewish Santas that grew white beards that their first experience with Santa Claus was when a kid clocked them as Santa in public.
Yeah.
And right when a kid clocks you, they're like, oh my God, it's Santa. It's just like the shh,
Yeah.
right? Kind of thing. That's pretty much all it is. If you're not in like a full Santa regalia, some of the parents don't even notice you, but the kids do. So like it's not for the adults. It's just like yeah. So I might have run into another Santa, in which case I kind of just like doctor.
Gotcha, yeah.
Right. Santa. And it's if I was going to a public event, if I was going to a public event as Santa Claus, um, and I ran into another Santa there, that's not my fault,
Yeah.
right? Somebody did something wrong. One of these Santas is not the real Santa,
Okay.
right? That's the problem we run into.
Okay.
And it hasn't happened, so this is kind of just speculation. But it would be, maybe a grandpa who wore his Santa suit or whatever and wanted to be Santa Claus, but didn't know there was going to be an actual Santa Claus there.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to work that out amongst the guests, but it all comes into that I'm not the real Santa Claus, neither was a Santa before me.
Right. Okay.
I have done an event where there was a Black Santa event. Like it was for a Black community,
Okay.
and they were celebrating. So they were teaching about Kwanzaa. They were celebrating Christmas, but they wanted somebody there to make balloon animals.
Okay.
But I had the full white beard, and I asked my booking agent, like, how do I do this?
Yeah. It's
And he was like, that's a good question. Good luck.
fantastic.
So I put on a different pair of glasses,
Okay.
and I didn't wear any red. Like I wore blues, right?
Okay.
Like I didn't wear anything that spoke of Santa. If I were to do the same thing today, I'd probably wear what I'm wearing now, which is green
Santa
hair
casual.
pants and Santa casual. And if anybody asked, I would wear the elf ears and I'd wear like the green hat. And if anybody asked, I would tell them I was third in line to be Santa. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, wait, are you Santa too? No, I'm not Santa. I'm just an elf. But I am like third in line to be Santa. So like any day now, my beard's starting to come in.
Yeah.
My ear points are shrinking down. Right? Like I'm getting there. Right. And then that also lends believability to there's more than one Santa.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That all the elves get a chance to be Santa,
Yeah,
that
the
it's not
title,
just
not a
one guy.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The Dread Pirate Roberts, man. That's my favorite bit of Santa lore is the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Okay.
That's how I like to approach that mantle, is that it is a thing that passes from elf to elf and not necessarily one dude who has enslaved a race of elves to do his bidding.
Okay. Speaking of multiple Santas, I did not pass this by. Can you explain Jewish Santa from like 3 minutes ago? How does that work?
No, it's just a guy who's Jewish who plays Santa.
Okay, it's really just exactly what it sounds
Yeah,
like. Got it.
Yeah, it's a Santa who is Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so there are a lot of Christian Santas who get out of it because they feel like it takes away from God and the power of God.
Got it.
Which is true because, like I said at the beginning, Santa is a god. He's an egregore.
Yeah.
He's a god because we believe in him and his power. And so, like, yeah, I can see that. But I've also, when I said I was going to bring my ukulele to a party once, they're like, okay, just don't play any like Christian music. And I'm like, but it's Christmas. It's a Christian holiday. Isn't all Christmas music Christian music to celebrate the Christian holiday?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I didn't really bring that up with the clients or anything.
I gotcha.
But it's, that means I'm singing Jingle Bells, White Christmas, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, right?
Yeah.
Not Oh Holy Night.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's weird levels of religion in this religious holiday that isn't really a religious holiday because it's just a solstice festival.
I wish you could see the Venn diagrams in my head that I'm trying to like put like, okay, pagan traditions, religious holiday, Christmas. How does this all overlap? What goes where? Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah. So we're doing our best out here with this character that is mostly secular now, I suppose.
Seems that way.
Because people from all over are excited about Santa Claus. He exists in most cultures because Christianity is pervasive, and ways it's still probably harmful to society.
I've seen Indian Santa. I've seen Chinese Santa.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Um. So, you know,
Okay. What was one of the moments of you being Santa and your interaction with the kid that stands out to you the most?
um, I mean, most recently was bees.
Sure.
Um.
It could be positive or negative, but most.
So that's a really tough question
Okay.
because I have great control over the little meet and greet part,
Yeah.
right? Oh, no, favorite interaction.
Okay, let's hear it.
Got it. It was on the Argosy Christmas ship.
Okay.
All right, there was only like 10 kids. I was just walking around mingling. I was talking to the adults. I went up on deck because we had just made the first stop. And I was on the deck of the ship, and these kids were doing Fortnite dances. And so I asked them what they were doing, and they were like, I was like, oh, are these those dances from that video game,
Yeah.
Fortnite or whatever, you know, because Santa does have to know about these things,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, teach me some. And so I let them teach me how to floss, which I did already know how to do, but I did it badly for the first few times on purpose.
There you go.
And then they taught me the Orange Julius. Right. And while I was sitting there learning these dances, so the kids were in front of me and I was there learning these dances, doing a bad job of it. The thing that tickled me most of all was because the kids' backs were to all the adults. All the adults were trying it too. Like not all of them, but you could
A fair amount.
Me as Santa, who could see them all, could see these adults trying it. And then this one older lady who probably didn't even have kids or grandkids in that age range came up and was like, "Is this it?"
Yeah.
And nailed it.
Oh, good for
Right.
them. Yes.
And these kids went nuts. Right. And so by letting myself look ridiculous. Right. I gave all the adults permission to look ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it created this moment for those kids where they got to teach Santa Claus how to do
Yeah.
Fortnite dances on the Christmas ship. What a great year. I hope they remember that for the rest of
They
their lives.
absolutely will. Yeah.
I hope that lady remembers that.
Yeah.
Right? I hope they remember that lady. You know? I think that's every time I do the Orange Julius now, I have to tell them that I learned that from Santa Claus on the Christmas ship.
Yeah, I mean it's moments like that to where you can really feel the magic, the embodiment of what Santa's supposed to represent, those special moments. So thank you for sharing. That's a really beautiful thing. Thank you. So a closing tradition that we have on the show is a previous guest leaves a question for the current guest, not knowing who the current guest may be. And the question that is left for you is, what is some investment that you made into yourself, whether it's, education, equipment, stuff like that for your career that ended up not really being what you thought it was? It didn't really pay out how you expected.
Well, this one is kind of a group effort. So was my third year of Santa when I started working with the Princess Company. They wanted to replace or step into the gap that was being left by the fact that there's not a mall Santa to go get your pictures taken with anymore. We all put in, so it was Enchanting Events and A Dash of Adorable and me, Presto the Peculiar. The three of us teamed up together. A Dash of Adorable builds a lot of props and stuff for events. And so they're the ones who built our Little Santa's workshop. The Enchanting Events had we used a photo booth for taking pictures. The little photo booths pop up. You see at people's weddings and stuff. Her connections to the local area, and then me as Santa Claus, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna go hard in the yard to let people know we're gonna be there. That was frankly my best year financially as Santa Claus, because we all put so much effort into it.
Yeah.
But the business was based up in Mount Vernon and Skagit Valley for me, so that's 45 minutes to an hour and a half depending on where I'm going. And for the next 2 years, I was their only Santa Claus, which means that the half-hour party where they wanted a meet and greet out in La Conner, which is 45 minutes off the highway once you get the hour it takes to get to La
Yes,
Conner
yes.
for a half-hour party. So after that first year, we haven't used that Santa's Workshop pop-up thing that we built.
Yeah.
Um, I am not their only Santa anymore because I can't afford to drive out that far.
Right. It's ridiculous.
They
Yeah.
had to find other Santas. I got overbooked and couldn't do some of the gigs, so they needed other Santas. Um, and so it was a good investment because we got a lot of experience, but I think overall we all lost money in those first couple years trying to get a Santa get a grip on the Santa market because none of us had been in it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to think of I've made a lot of stupid decisions that have cost me a lot of money. I like to think that I traded it for experience and education.
Yeah.
That is what I purchased.
Yeah, like I am grateful that I didn't have to put a lot of financial down payment into it.
Yeah.
That it was, it was the investment for me of the driving and the time, the opportunity cost
Yeah.
of doing this. But it did it did get me off the Christmas ship, which I am kind of grateful for. The Christmas ship was a lot of fun, but it's filler work, really.
It's good for a time and place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If I could afford to not have a Muggle job, it'd be great to fill out my schedule,
Yeah.
to be able to do something on a Thursday night,
Of course.
and do one of the Christmas ship sailings,
Yep.
and be out there. But yeah, it got me the experience. It got me connected to other people who do private parties.
Yeah.
And it just lets me be out, So, it was, I suppose it was worth it, but it definitely didn't work out the way we planned.
Sure. I mean, not all success needs to be measured monetarily. There's
Right.
so many different, ways that you can measure that. Networks, relationships, education, experience, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Alex, this has been an absolute pleasure. Before we wrap, is there anywhere that people can find you, and where would you like to draw people's attention to?
Um, People can find me on the internet. Most of my stuff is under my performance name, Presto the Peculiar. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I got them. I don't use them very much. I'm really bad at being on the internet.
You and me both.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna lose TikTok here in a minute anyway. So, we'll see. But yeah, that's yeah. You can find me on the internet, but in real life right now, appearances are hard. For my only public Santa appearance was last weekend. So
Yeah, this will come out probably if I'm doing my best, the Sunday before Christmas of 2024. So, but yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming, to speak of this. It's lovely to have a Santa that I can chat with in December. And I really appreciate your time, your stories, and the dedication to your craft. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.